Imagine a Saturday morning in 1963. You push open a glass door on a quiet main street, and before you even step inside, it finds you. That sharp, sweet sting of permanent wave solution hanging in the warm air. Underneath it, talcum powder, a faint trace of hairspray. The low hum of hood dryers, steady as rainfall. Every chair is full. Women sit with their hands folded in their laps, magazines open but unread. They are listening, talking, but carefully, below a certain volume, as if the room itself has set the tone, and everyone arrived already knowing it. Nobody told them the rules. Nobody had to. This was the beauty parlor. And it was so much more than a place to get your hair done.
For women in mid-century America, especially working women, women with little money and less time, the beauty parlor was one of the only places in the week that belonged entirely to them. Not to their husbands, not to their children, not to their employers. Just them. And inside that space, a whole social code had grown up. Quiet, precise, and completely invisible to anyone who hadn't been raised inside it. Most people today have no idea this world ever existed. Today, we're going to count down 12 of the unspoken rules that governed the beauty parlor, the things every woman understood without a single word being said. Some of them will make you smile. Some of them might make you think. And at least one of them, I suspect, will make you wish we still lived that way. Let's begin.
If you walked out of your appointment and ran into a neighbor on the sidewalk, she might say, "Oh, your hair looks lovely." And you'd say, "Thank you." And that was the end of it. She would not ask what you paid. You would not volunteer it. The price of a woman's beauty routine. How much she spent, how often she went, what exactly she had done, was considered deeply private, as private as what her husband brought home on payday. There was a quiet dignity in that. You tended to your appearance the way you tended to your home, carefully, consistently, and without making a production of it for the neighbors. Today, the full receipt goes on social media before the foils are off. A different world. Not worse, maybe. Just different. Punctuality at the beauty parlor wasn't just courtesy. It was respect for a whole chain of women whose time mattered just as much as yours. If Dottie had you at 9, you were there at 9, not 9:05. You walked in with enough time to hang your coat, take a seat, and let the woman in your chair finish her set without feeling hurried, because she was someone's 9 o'clock too, once, and she remembered that. The rhythm of a busy parlor was a delicate thing. One woman running late could ripple all the way to the noon appointments. Everyone understood this without it ever being explained. The modern equivalent, showing up 15 minutes late to a salon and then being surprised when your stylist seems rushed, would have been genuinely unthinkable. If you brought a child with you to the parlor, you brought a quiet one. That child sat in the corner chair you pointed to. She folded her hands. She watched. If she was given a magazine, usually something with pictures, she turned the pages slowly and did not swing her feet against the chair legs. She did not speak unless an adult spoke to her first. This wasn't cruelty. It was how children learned that some rooms had different rules than others, that the world was not always arranged around them. And honestly, for many little girls, those mornings were enchanting. All those women, all that careful, purposeful beauty, all those low, unhurried voices. Some of us grew up to love that memory more than we ever told anyone. And this next one? This one surprised me the most when I first really thought about it.
This one required real social precision. You could say, "That color suits you." You could say, "Dottie did a beautiful job." What you could not say, or at least what you had to be very careful saying, was anything that implied surprise. "Oh, that's so much better than last time." Or, "I didn't think that style would work on you, but it really does." A compliment with a shadow in it wasn't a compliment. The women in those parlors understood the difference between being kind and being cutting, and they policed that line with a precision that would impress a diplomat. Grace was the currency, and most of them were quietly, genuinely wealthy in it. The hood dryer changed everything about the dynamics of the room. Once you were under it, that big, warm, humming dome settling over your rollers, you were, in a practical sense, temporarily unavailable. You could hear a little. People could lean in close and speak up. But the general understanding was that you were in process. You didn't start a serious conversation from under the dryer. You smiled, you nodded, you let the heat do its work. It was, when you think about it, one of the only truly guilt-free excuses a woman had to simply stop, to sit, to be warm and unhurried and left alone with her own thoughts. Some women looked forward to those 20 minutes under the dryer more than they ever admitted to their families. The beauty parlor was where news traveled. Not gossip, necessarily, though there was some of that too, in the gentlest sense, but real information. That someone's mother had taken ill, that the Hendersons were moving to Cincinnati, that the new family on Maple Street seemed very nice. And the unspoken rule, the most important one attached to all of it, was that what happened in the parlor stayed in the parlor. Not because women were secretive by nature, but because trust was the thing that made the whole room work. You could speak honestly in there. Let your worries show a little. Admit something wasn't going well at home, because you knew the woman next to you would carry it gently and set it down when she left. That kind of trust is rare. It was worth protecting. However, what comes next? This one changes how I think about the whole idea of loyalty between women. If someone outside, a neighbor, a relative, even your own husband, said something dismissive about your hair, the correct response was never to agree and redirect blame toward the woman who did your hair. You said, "I love it, actually." And you meant it, or you learned to say it convincingly. The relationship between a woman and her stylist was one of the most steadfast loyalties in ordinary life. Dottie knew how you took your coffee. She knew which side your hair parted naturally. She knew what you looked like when you'd been crying. And she never said a word about it. You did not throw that woman under the bus because your brother-in-law made a remark at Sunday dinner. You went back next week and you sat in her chair and you trusted her again. This one is nearly impossible to explain to someone who didn't live it, but you did not go to the beauty parlor in clothes you'd wear to do yard work. You put on something decent. A clean blouse, pressed slacks, or a day dress. You were going somewhere. The parlor was a social occasion, and you dressed for it accordingly. Part of this was respect for the other women there. Part of it was respect for yourself. And part of it, the part that nobody quite said out loud, was that the beauty parlor was one of the few places a working woman went that was entirely for her own upkeep, her own care. You honored that by showing up to it with a little intention. Today, we go in athleisure and order from an app while we wait. Comfortable, certainly. But the ritual of it, the small ceremony of getting ready to go get ready, that's gone. I'll tell you, this next one is the one that gets me every time I think about it. This was the most serious, unspoken rule of all. And I want to tell you a story to explain exactly what I mean. There was a woman. Let's call her Vera Hitchcock, because that was her name. Vera came into Dottie Pruitt's shop on Seminary Street every Friday morning at 10 o'clock sharp. Pin curls, same style, every single week, for 30-some years. Nobody booked that slot. Not the regulars, not Dottie's own sister when she visited from Springfield. 10 o'clock Friday was Vera's time. Everyone knew. Nobody had ever said so. Then one autumn, a new young woman moved to town. Didn't know anyone. Called to book an appointment, and Dottie, distracted maybe or just tired, put her in the 10 o'clock Friday. The morning came. Vera walked in right on time, the way she always did, with her handbag on her wrist and her coat buttoned to the top. She saw the young woman in her chair. Nothing happened. Dottie looked up from the register and smiled and said, "Oh, Vera, I've got you at 10:30 this week, sugar. I meant to call you." She hadn't meant to call. There had been no plan. She just fixed it, smooth as setting a glass upright. And Vera nodded and took a seat by the window with her hands folded in her lap, like she'd expected it all along. Nobody made a scene. Nobody had to. That was the rule. Not written anywhere, not spoken to the new girl, just carried quietly by every woman who had been coming long enough to understand that some things are protected because they matter, not because anyone's demanded it. When your appointment was finished, your hair set, your coat back on, your payment settled at the register, you did not linger. You said your goodbyes warmly and promptly. You did not pull up a chair and continue the conversation indefinitely while the next woman waited to sit down. The parlor had a rhythm, and you respected it. This wasn't coldness. The warmth was real. The laughter, the conversation, all of it genuine. But part of being a gracious regular was understanding that Dottie had 8 more women to see before supper, and your time in the chair was yours, not your neighbor's. You left, and you felt good about leaving. That was enough. If Dottie set your curls a little tighter than you'd asked, you did not sit in the chair and itemize the ways it wasn't quite right. You looked in the mirror. You said, "It's lovely, Dottie. Thank you." And if there was something you'd wanted done differently, you filed it away quietly and mentioned it, gently, specifically, the next time you booked. The relationship was long-term. You didn't optimize each visit in isolation. You were building something across years, and that required a kind of patience, a willingness to let one imperfect set of curls pass without drama, that I think we've largely lost in an age where every experience gets a rating before you've finished it. Above all the other rules, there was this one, unspoken, absolute. The time in the chair belonged entirely to the woman in it. It was hers, not her family's, not her employer's, not the errand waiting outside on the sidewalk, or the supper she'd have to start when she got home. For 1 hour, once a week, or once a month if that was all you could manage, the world had agreed to leave you alone, and you accepted that gift without guilt. You didn't answer to anyone from that chair. You didn't explain yourself. You just sat, and somebody took care of you. That, more than any etiquette rule, more than any appointment hierarchy or dress code or code of silence, that was what the beauty parlor really was. A place where someone took care of you.
I think about those women sometimes, about what it took to build a world like that, without ever writing any of it down. To pass an entire code of grace from woman to woman, through nothing more than observation
and repetition, through little girls sitting in corner chairs with their hands folded, watching. The beauty parlor wasn't just for hair. It was where women kept each other, where you heard that a neighbor was sick before she told anyone, and you knew to bring a dish over. Where you sat next to someone who was quietly falling apart, and neither of you said a word about it. And somehow that was exactly right. All of it wrapped up in the smell of Aquanet and warm rollers, and that particular hush that meant you are safe here. Those shops are mostly gone now. What replaced them is fine. Bright and fast and efficient. Nothing wrong with any of it. But I hope if you watch this today, you walk away feeling a little proud of those women. They built something real. They built community and trust and care out of almost nothing, in the margins of ordinary lives. They just did it quietly, the way they did most things.
If any of this felt familiar, if your mother had a standing appointment, or you can still picture the parlor she went to, leave the name of that shop and the town in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this one, there's another video waiting for you right here that I think you'll feel the same way about. Take your time with it. There's no rush.